So I had this revelation the other day, and I thought about sharing it because I saw a post where it's like the new feminism is going to be, you know, mothers standing up for the next generations and showing the true purpose and fulfillment that comes from motherhood. And not to say that motherhood is for everybody, and if, you know, you don't have kids, this isn't like putting you down. But I think as a societal approval or a societal standard, we're moving away from motherhood, and children are considered problems in ending your life. And I'm not gonna lie, when I got pregnant at 25, that was my first thought. Like, I just started living my life is over. But honestly, it was the best thing that ever could have happened to me. So anyways, what I thought of was Madonna's song in the 80s, I'm keeping my baby. And it just had me thinking, you know, in the 80s, she's over here advocating that regardless of how she got pregnant, whether it was out of wedlock or not, that she was going to keep her baby. Because at that time, the men in our lives, or the men in society, would typically have the power to tell a woman whether or not they're able to keep their baby or have their baby out of wedlock. You know, because a lot of, if you look back in history, you know, if you were a mistress or you got pregnant outside of wedlock or whatever, either the women in the family or the men would dictate whether or not you, A, had to be forced to marry this person who impregnated you, B, have an abortion and give up your baby, or C, have your baby and have it taken from you and given to some other family or some nuns or whatever, all in the name of protecting your reputation. So remember, that's what we came from. So in that song, that just kind of reminded me that that wasn't that long ago. That was even in the 80s, where it's like, you know, you have a baby or you get pregnant outside of what is socially acceptable, you were forced into one of these situations. So it just made me think, sorry, this big truck, of how they've switched the tables. The tables have turned. You know, it used to be feminism was sticking up for being able to have sovereignty over keeping your child. You know, regardless of the scenario of how you became pregnant. Obviously the best is to be in marriage, and, you know, that's just the best guidelines that God gives us, you know, but he's not saying if you're outside of those guidelines, you know, you're not, if you're outside of the best case scenario, that you should just, you know, kill it. It's still a life. So, but anyways, it just made me think about how these people in power, these puppeteers, have now gone from telling us, because they were able to control us as women in society, that now we have rights and now we have a voice and now we have way more freedoms than we ever did, that instead of controlling us, they just manipulate our mindset. So now in society, they've set the new norm by the help of other women, that it's empowering to get rid of your child. So instead of them controlling how and when we have children, they control it by telling us that children are a problem. Children end your life. Live your best life. Do you, boo. Make yourself happy, you know. You're going to miss on vacations. You're going to miss on, you know, getting money. You're going to miss out on parties, cocktails, champagne. Like, that's what society has deemed happiness for us. And so instead of making those choices for yourself, they've put this, I believe it to be more social manipulative, you know, out there, that it's empowering to get rid of your child. It's your body, your choice, where before it used to be the man's choice. So, but you're still choosing to end something that we fought to save, if that makes sense. Like, that was just my thought process. Like, we fought so hard to have the right to keep our babies, but now they're like, well, let's just manipulate their mindset. So it's the same people in power same rich oligarchy men or whatever you want to say, but there's some women mixed in there, obviously, that are used to the advantage of the agenda, or whatever you want to call it. Really go to the root core of it, it's all satanic. Satan has been after our children, and that's why they're the target through centuries and all through history. But that just made me think how now our new society's norm is we've been empowered to have the right to kill our children. Where before, not even that long ago, in the 80s, it was the right to decide to keep our children.